All right. Anybody have any questions? No? All right. We'll see you next time then.
I could always ask questions. Um, does anyone else have one though?
Nope. Go for it.
Okay. Um, Andrew, could you talk about how you feel through projection?
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I've just gotten kind of curious hearing you talk about just that there's been instances where you've talked about projection and it comes up on the fellowship calls and things like that. And it's just gotten me curious into your process of feeling through when something is a projection or not.
Go ahead.
Like both ways, both when someone is saying something, feeling whether they're projecting, and also if you're feeling it, whether you're projecting.
The first thing I would do is check in with the feeling. So let me start off with if I'm projecting. There's a few things that I would need to be aware of. Is this something that bothers me? Is this something that I struggle with? Is this something that I judge? I would take a look at what is my relationship with this particular thing. If I have a rocky kind of relationship with it, that's a pretty good indicator of this has a high likelihood of maybe being my stuff. So if it's something that I struggle with every day, it may be a safe bet to say, I'm probably projecting this onto them, since it's something that myself, um, is struggling with every day. If it's not, then I ask the next question: is this something that they're known to do all the time? Right? Okay. This is something that they're doing all of the time. Okay. Well, probably higher likelihood than that it might not be. If it isn't, right, next question. If it's a high likelihood that it's both of our stuff, then it might be both. I might be projecting my crap onto their crap. If it's neither, then it's going to require some more exploration. So looking at the trends, right, probability is a very quick, simple, easy thing that anybody who is just telling the truth can do. It doesn't require very special skills or anything. Along with that, I suppose, would be, am I telling the truth? Am I making truth the most important thing? Am I hiding something? Do I not want to be seen a certain way? Am I manipulating? Do I have an agenda? Am I looking to blame? Am I looking to not make truth the most important thing? So if I notice any of those things going on, higher likelihood, probability that it's my stuff. I'm doing something rather than orienting towards the truth. If I assume and I check in and confirm that I am oriented towards the truth, that will lead me to a space of wanting to know. Am I projecting? Is this my stuff or is it their stuff? Because if I don't want to know, that's a higher probability potential that I'm projecting, I'm hiding, doing stuff, right? It's the same kind of way um, you see people getting upset that corruption is being exposed, or people that are upset that um, inefficient people are being fired. Well, the only people that get upset about those are people that are either corrupt and benefit from corruption, or are inefficient or inadequate and are upset that they might be next or their friends, something like this. So nobody in the world that doesn't benefit from corruption is going to be opposed to it. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So, likewise, if I'm opposed to discovering the truth between something being a projection of mine or theirs, um, there's a very high likelihood of it being something that I don't want to see, or they don't want to see, or I don't want them to see. So that's another aspect. All right. So I'm willing to see this. I want to know the truth. What's next? All right. Sorting through the stuff. So I start feeling. After a bunch of those simple questions, I probably have a pretty good feel, right? It narrows things down a lot. As you get, as I get, as I have gotten more and more in relationship with my own shadow material, it allows me to identify my own stuff a lot sooner, a lot easier. So a major part of the process um, is to know thyself. And the more I know of myself, the more I'm going to be able to delineate between me and others, what's mine and what's others. So that ability to delineate, to be able to draw a line, to take ownership, to have awareness of my own stuff, my shadow, is going to allow me to feel through what's mine and what's theirs. So after 15 years of doing this work, I know myself pretty well. I know how I know my tendencies. I know how I would like to avoid. I know my strategies. I know the ego defenses. I know what I don't want to feel. I know all of those things after years and years and years of doing this. So that awareness is probably going to be the real cornerstone to being able to discern if I'm projecting or it's theirs. So I'm going to go in and feel, and I'm going to feel around, and I'm going to try it on. I'm going to say, okay, does this feel like me? Does this feel like things that I've done? Does this feel familiar, or does it feel foreign? And if I know the person, what's their pattern? Does this feel like something that they would do? Right. And so having that, having those reference points and being able to discern between what's mine and what's others from a feeling place is probably what I would use the most. Um, and so I would just feel through it. Um, and I would feel, is this mine? Is this something that I think about this person? Or is this something that I'm seeing? So it's perception versus projection. Is this something that I am perceiving? If so, am I perceiving it accurately? Am I distorting it, doing filters, um, generalizing things, making assumptions? What am I doing through the perception process? So I go over this in the cynosomatic discovery class, and we do it in more advanced work for facilitators about the cynosomatic communication model, where you have two people. Actually, I can. Yeah, I'll just do it really quick. You have two people, and on this side, you have the message going out, and then the message going in to this person. And so there's filters, distortions, generalizations, traumas, um, stories, all of this stuff that's happening on both sides. And so when it comes out one side, the communication gets filtered through all of the stuff by the person communicating, and then the person receiving it, it's going through their filter system as well. So you have two sets of filter systems going through um, the communication going through two sets of those filter systems. So being able to, in the long run, in the healing and the transformational process of synesthetics in this work, the idea is to be able to heal and clear and sort of purify and get rid, not sort of collapse down and integrate all of those filter systems. So we have as least filters, distortions, stories. We have as little distorting that information over as possible. And that does not mean, though it may feel like it does not actually mean removing the unique fractal and perspective from somebody's true self, right? The light coming in is going to shine differently from this way, right? Mauricio, Joe, Elaine, Megan, Tarun, Neil, Andrew, we all have our own unique flavor. We can clear it, heal, and subtract all of those distortions and still all be unique personalities. But there's a fear that some people have a fear, even therapists I've worked with have a fear um, that if you remove all of the distortions, then we're all going to be plain vanilla and we're just all the same cookie cutter thing. It's just turning everybody into all gray. or brown mush. It's just not true. The world would be a lot better with a lesser amount of communication being filtered through trauma and judgments and distortions and this sort of stuff. Um, so, with that understanding of this communication, you have both the perception and projection possibilities. And as you're looking at somebody or listening to somebody, right, they got what they might be projecting, they got all that stuff, but you're also perceiving it in a certain way. And so, by reducing and going through the subtraction of those filters, you're able to discern more accurately what's yours and what's theirs. So let's say for myself, somebody that has done a lot of work on healing and removing and reducing those filters, it is very easy for me to see, along with me knowing myself and what my stuff is, what's somebody else's stuff and what's mine. So that's um, sort of a long-term process in understanding. As far as the actual moment of it happening, within that container of all of those things going on, it always comes back to feeling. I'm in a feeling place and I feel into what's happening. I feel into that communication. And because I have enough reference points on what it feels like to tell the truth, what it feels like to project, what it feels like to feel other people projecting, with enough of those reference points in my body, that guidance system is highly tuned. It's kind of like the AI models, that the better data sets that you put into these models, the better they're able to produce. If, in programming, it's called garbage in, garbage out. You have garbage data come in, you're just going to get a garbage result. And so having a somatic feeling reference point of what it feels like when I'm projecting and doing all this wacky stuff, what it feels like when someone else is doing that, along with what I might potentially know about a particular person, all of that goes into a process of discerning between, am I projecting on somebody else or is this actually their stuff? So a lot goes into it. That sort of big picture, that's not necessarily all in one moment, although in a matter of seconds you could eventually rapidly go through all of that stuff. I can just in seconds go through all of those things and sort that out inside, practicing it for years. Um, so yeah, that's how I would go through it.
Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome. What did you learn from that?
Yeah, it was really nice to yeah, hearing the filters on both sides kind of made me feel through the way people talk and speech patterns and anyway, but I also felt that like the fear off, it almost feels like your personality's changing when you drop some distortions or what other people, friends and so on, might perceive as a personality change, because so much of what people call personality is a lot of these distortions and the way that you act out, whether you're like, oh yeah, like this Neil's this kind of person. And
It's a great point. I'll just
yeah.
pipe in here because A lot of people call someone's personality. They think personality is all of that stuff. And on a very superficial level, yeah, sure. But as we get into this kind of work, um, you start realizing, oh, well, there's images, there's masks, there's narcissism, there's fantasies, there's being in your body, there's being heady, there's being anxious and avoidant. And so I would never say to somebody, well, who you really are is anxious. Now, through their lives, they live decades and decades and decades being a worry wart and a nervous Nelly and all of these kind of things. They've embodied those archetypes. And because it's just all they do, it's became their personality. But it's not who they really are. But if they've identified to it, it's going to be really hard to have those people give it up because it's going to feel like they're giving up who they are, even though that's not how they were born. And it really isn't who they are. It's just who they are in air quotes because of how they've shown up most of their life. And threatening that is a threat to their identity, which is a threat to their ego, which is a threat to their existence. And then you have the flip side of that, of all the friends and the people around you being like, well, that's not who you are. This is how you are. I know the Neil. I know the Elaine, right? Right. Mauricio, right? Like your mom and sisters. Well, this is who you are, right? Keeping you in this sort of box, despite how much you've grown and learned and healed and matured and changed. Because most people don't. And so I don't know if I was on a private call, um, but most people, our nervous system isn't really wired to adapt to changes in different people um, as a way of identifying them. So we are attuned to changes in people as in a difference, right? So we say, "Oh, you're different. You changed." So our nervous system can be wired to be aware of these changes because they're not normal. And that might result in maybe they're lying. Maybe something bad happened to them, right? So we're looking for this baseline, the box that we can put everyone in so we can say, all right, this is Sally and Bob, and okay, great, I can get on with my life. But when you first meet somebody, it's just like, where do I put this person in my psyche? Where do they go? How do they fit them? Da, 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 da. So we can figure out how we relate to them. But to update that constantly and quickly for somebody, and we just evolutionary, it doesn't seem to be something that comes naturally for people. You hear people, oh, people don't change. Well, I mean, it's true. People don't until they do. Um, but as almost all of you have experienced, both A, changing, um, there's a reason why most people don't change, and B, it can actually happen in a moment. You've probably all had experiences in this work, those of you that have worked with me, where there's a clear delineation. It's like, oh, after this session or this workshop or this intensive, nothing's going to be the same. Or at least I'm not going to be the same. I'm not the same. And for most people, that's just not a common occurrence. Here, that can happen literally multiple times in a session or a weekend. So because of that, we have people around us that don't update those definitions in boxes and images for us. And so as we change, as we adapt, we have to get into relationship with these people in new ways. And sort of help them update how they see us. Um, so yeah, it's a very unique position to be in because oftentimes the only time that happens is through a lot of time. Oh, hey, yeah, I know you. We went to high school together. Wow, you look so different. Or, wow, you look exactly the same and you've been doing the same thing for 40 years. All right, you're still exactly as mature as you were when we graduated. All right. I'm certain I would go. I've actually gone back to my hometown, and I remember being in grocery stores and stuff, seeing people that I went to school with. They didn't even recognize me. They had no idea. Not like they had to. I mean, but anyway, I think you get the idea. Elaine, you have something to share?
Yes, I was just thinking how excited I am to keep moving through this work and get to the point where a lot of my distortions are collapsed and to feel that clarity and be able to really identify when people are projecting. I think that's a beautiful thing to be armed with in life and just I think that's
So
beautiful.
here's a
Thank you.
great, you're welcome. Here's a great example. Yeah, can I share a little bit um to you, Elaine?
Sure.
Yeah. I'll keep it very vague as to not disclose anything. Um, but it's a great reference point. So in our sessions, especially last time, um, how your guilt and your shame and these things actually clouded you from being able to discern the difference between if someone else was projecting onto you or it was actually your stuff,
Yes.
right? And so as you heal that, you're going to be able to start separating what's mine and what's theirs. It's the same thing as Neil was asking, just from the other side around, if someone's projecting onto you. Um, but you get to see how your emotional um, load and those traumas and these beliefs about yourself prevents you from having an accurate read of the situation.
I was thinking about that today and reading some of your on the narcissism in your book. And I was noting how you were talking about, you didn't think you were narcissistic, but then you went in and you found out you were through your mentor, that you felt very undeservedness and just a lack thereof. And I was wondering how, because these issues of me not deserving, me not feeling pretty enough, a lack thereof, it came from childhood, but have I taken that and used it in a narcissistic way to suffer, to um, create that image that my mom gave on me of not enough of, and I was trying to always uphold that image. um
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The
okay.
narcissistic image isn't just a grandiose positive one. It could be a sad, pathetic, ugly one.
Wow,
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought of it in those terms yet until today, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's
Wait,
jeez.
but Andrew, something that I've thought about with Elaine too is when I feel my own narcissism, if mine is like a 10 out of 10, then Elaine's for me would be like a 1 out of 10. So what am I missing here? Do you feel it the same way, or am I missing the ways that she is narcissistic?
Well, I mean, every day, Neil, I would throughout the day, like just walking through the mirror, I'd be like, oh. I look okay, I look pretty. Then I walk in, oh my gosh, I look ugly. I mean, it was just I was so I just every day, and I never could just have a real sense that I look okay or I'm okay. So I don't know that it, as far as you're saying, it looks like a one to you. As I think into it, it felt like a lot of my life wasted on this suffering or
The image.
questioning these things.
Yeah. So, and remember too, narcissism isn't just the narcissistic image, right? I think a major point, um, even that we had in the fellowship yesterday, of not taking into consideration others, of it just making it all about us. And so, for example, Elaine, you know that for those years, I mean, it was just about you and your suffering and the effect it had on your family. There was no space for you to love and show up for others.
And that's generally the rule, or just generally the idea of narcissism, isn't it? Like we'll use anything to make it about us. And it can look in all the different ways, whether it be like I look like this, or I'm really shit and lonely. And is that correct? Like that's the common thread in all narcissism. Just make it about us, no matter what, how.
Yeah, but it's yes, and it's not the real us.
Hmm,
It's not the true self.
hmm,
Narcissism is an abandonment of the true self.
hmm.
Here, let me read this. Or I I think this is the only quote from another book um, that I put into my book because it was just so profound. Um, and my own narcissism is I can write pretty good. I can articulate things very well. I'm not going to put something into my book that isn't better than what I wrote. So everything I put into my book, all the quotes, all the excerpts, um, I put them in because they said it better than I could. So kind of a joke, tongue in cheek, but um, in a way, it's not because of like real narcissism would prevent other people's quotes from being in the book, so they wouldn't steal the light. Oh, it was so funny. I don't think she'll ever watch this, but I met somebody, and if you did, well, I've told you already. Um, um, I had met somebody, and she got my book, and she just was like, "Oh, this book is so amazing! Oh my God!" Blah 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 da 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 da. Cool. And I met up. I went over to her. She invited me over to her house to do some business, and I saw my book. I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool!" I just had written it a year ago or something, and I was like, "This is so cool seeing someone else's book." And I saw like all these sticky notes. She's like, "Yeah, I highlighted so much in the book." I was like, "Cool." I wanted some feedback. I wanted to go in and see like because you look at what somebody highlights, you can get an idea into what they're thinking. You can see what works, what doesn't work. Maybe I can write more content on these ideas that stand out for people, etc. So I went through the book and I looked at all of the highlights. Guess what I found in common? Now, if I've told you the story, don't give the answer away. So every single highlight was one of the quotes. Not a single Not a single sentence or word that I wrote did she highlight. Everything in the book was somebody else's quotes. Not just one. The only thing that she highlighted were the excerpts and the quotes from other people. Very interesting. There's a lot there. Maybe competition, narcissism, there's appeal to authority, There's, all sorts of weird stuff going on in there. I bet you she wouldn't have done it if, and I bet you she wouldn't have done it if I was some big fancy New York Times bestseller. So there's this weird competition and avoidance of my wisdom and looking for, yeah, it was just like, whoa, this is
Andrew,
weird.
sorry, maybe I mixed the context, but was she another author? Is
No,
that what it was?
no, she's
Okay,
just someone I met that got my
okay,
book and read it.
right,
Yeah, I met her and then I told her about my book and then she got the book and then we
okay.
went to her house for some business and yeah. But maybe, I think also maybe like a life coach or, some stuff like this, business person or whatever.
Right, that's
But
so
I just,
bizarre.
yeah, I was just like, this isn't just it's not nothing. It's certainly something. um, I'm like, listen, I love the quotes too. They're why I put them in the book. But there's 122 other thousand words that you might want to learn from if I mean, I'm pretty confident in my book. I'm pretty certain that there's something in here useful to anybody that reads it, more than other people's quotes. So it was a very, very interesting experience.
Well, now
Uh,
you know what to do. You can just make another book with all the quotes.
yeah. Well, actually, I actually, my dad got me a book for Christmas, um, and it's called Other People's Words.
I
Um,
like
but not in a negative way, but in like, hey, here's a book for quotes that you can use for your book.
Right,
Um,
right.
go ahead. Elaine.
Andrew, you have some really good quotes on your website. You could
Thanks.
start with your own quotes. They're
Yeah.
good.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought so too. I actually had a wiki quote page. They took it down because I wasn't famous enough. Um, but I had a whole page where I had lots of quotes that like was shared like hundreds of thousands of times. My quotes have been out there. Um,
Well, you can use the pen name Anonymous. That's been going down very well, hasn't it?
yeah, I'll tell you guys the truth. No, most people don't know this, but I used to go by the pen name Anonymous. I'm
Yeah.
actually a vampire. So throughout history, I've penned many things. So, yes, let me read this back to the narcissism. So, this is an excerpt from Alexander Lowen, MD's book, Narcissism. Quote, narcissists do show a lack of concern for others, but they are equally insensitive to their own true needs. Often their behavior is self destructive. Moreover, when we speak of narcissists' self love, we need to make a distinction. Narcissism denotes investment in one's image as opposed to one's self. Narcissists love their image, not their real self. They have a poor sense of self. They are not self directed. Instead, their activities are directed towards the enhancement of their image, often at the expense of the self. So, this was a huge inspiration and revelation for me to really go deeper into my own narcissism and to articulate it the way that I do. So um, after that, I end quote. How I sort of summarized that up after this was narcissism is the denial of our truth in exchange for a lie. It is an act of self betrayal in exchange for a fantasy. It is the rejection of beauty in exchange for a fixation of lust. It is not a self obsession, it's an image obsession. What the narcissist fixates upon is their narcissistic image, a persona. Narcissists don't actually love themselves, they are in love with their image. Now, I know it sounds all like the same thing, but it's not. All of those variations really, really hit in different ways.
Gosh, I've read that like multiple times, but when you just read it just now, it really hit me when you said the narcissist doesn't love themselves, they love their image. Like that really hit me.
And Andrew, as you've shared to me, the story of Narcissus, he drowned in his own image,
Mhm.
didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he got lost in it.
Yeah, I can relate to that, Darun. Yeah.
It's a reflection. He did not fall in love with himself. He fell into the reflection, a mirage. We're so busy trying to project this mirage, this image, this fantasy out, or to build it for ourselves. And we build it for ourselves is because of our own feeling of inadequacy for ourselves. We see ourselves as pathetic, as not enough, as losers, as whatever it may be. And so we can build this image for ourselves and try to become this thing instead of allow a loving relationship with our true self. And then at the same time, we create this image for others to be perceived in a certain way. So we project our image to be perceived by others as well as a follow up to the beginning. So also, Neil, you know the masks, right? The mask is also a projection. It's a different definition, but it's the same thing.
Wait, what do you mean it's a projection?
So you're projecting a mask for people to see you as.
Oh, okay.
It's an image projection.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's a subtlety. What's projection? We talked about projection in a different way, about sort of making an accusation about somebody, um, judging them, right? We made a projection about others. Well, this is great. Oh my God, I love this. But another version of projection is projecting our image out to be seen in a certain way. And then so you say, all right, well, Andrew, well, how do you know if you're projecting your image out? Definition two of projection. Yeah.
Well, for me, it feels like when I go into my mask, I can't feel as well.
Yeah. You can't feel. There's less access. I think
Mhm.
the biggest thing is that it blocks intimacy. And so if you do not feel vulnerable, if you feel like you can't access others, if you feel like you're isolated, if no one can get into you, if you feel unpenetrable, if you're unwilling to surrender, all of these are sort of warning lights.
Are there all reasons why we create a narcissistic image? Pain associated with some sort of emotional pain, and then the narcissistic image is the mechanism to stop feeling that.
At some point, we decide that who we really are isn't enough. And we could find that out within moments of being born. And mama can look down at us and say, well, you're not pretty enough.
Gosh, yeah, with Darun, when you said that, like something else in the Andrew says or in his book, like I just remembered that too. It's like when you spend so much time in the image, uh, like I have, it's like you don't know yourself.
Yeah, you don't know who you really are. So a lot of people that, let's say, get into, um, say, the mysteries, ancient mystical work, Um, a- Above the entrance to the Temple of Delphi is know thyself. This was an ancient axiom. And most people think it's just, oh, well, I know myself. I like this. I do that. This is my favorite music. I like chocolate. I don't like vanilla. Vanilla's boring. I like going on trips. I really am anxious. I can't work in this sort of environment. I do really well with these kind of people. I know myself. And it's just like this deep compared, to the entirety of who we really are. And even this work, it's fingers pointing to the moon. This is one of the things in the book that a lot of people it's amazing how they miss it. Because I literally tell them about the true self. I literally say in here, like the second chapter, the path to enlightenment requires us to drop the persona of the ego and connect with the true self. To do so, we must go beyond wanted and unwanted, likes and dislikes, shoulds and shouldn'ts, comparisons and judgments. So even there, it's already an invitation to go deeper than just likes and dislikes and preferences. And this true self lies beyond your personality, body, or mind. Yet it is still distinctly, uniquely you. It is you, eternal, unlimited, pure, whole, complete, and unconditional. So I go on to talk about this for many, many pages. Um, oops, oops, I just had it right here. Here. Other names commonly used for the true self are Atman, soul, who you really are, or higher self. The rest of the book rests upon this term, so make sure you associate whatever concept you prefer to use. The label is not important. The dogma of tradition is not relevant. What's important is your realization and experience of it. So many people in so many seekers and practitioners of spiritual teachings get so caught up in these terminologies and splitting hairs. And that's not the important part. I don't care what you call it, it's the experience of it. To find your true self requires no seeking, only stopping. Stopping our neurotic stories and thoughts provides a space to truly hear. This stillness and silence within ourselves is where we meet that which connects us. It's this connection with our true self, not more fixing strategies, that initiates true change. It becomes an immaculate reference point for who we really are beyond our stories, labels, words, meanings, judgments, beliefs, behaviors, and concepts. My editor hated me for all of my commas and lists, but there's a reason for them. They are fairly conclusive lists. So again, as I say, I pick these words very purposeful. It becomes an immaculate reference point. What does immaculate mean?
Very clear.
Very accurate.
Pure.
Yeah, like perfect or
Clean, simple, clean, without any of the debris.
yeah, untainted.
Hmm.
I also think of divine when I think of that, probably because of Immaculate Conception.
Somebody's
Purposeful.
flipping in and out. Man, just give me the definition. I don't want to see movies. Here we go. All right. Definition Merriam-Webster says spotlessly clean, having or containing no flaw or error, having no stain or blemish, pure. Synonyms: chaste, vestal, virginal, pure. So there's a lot to it. So an immaculate reference point for who we really are beyond all of those things. Descriptions are but fingers pointing to the moon, not Luna herself. It is not an experience to be obtained from a book. It's not something to be grasped or understood. It's not something to attain or be obtained. It is not something for sale or to be given. It must be earnestly chosen and experienced by each of us. When we truly do experience ourselves this way, the change it initiates within our normal day-to-day self is authentic and substantial. It is genuinely self-correcting because it is self, not our ego story of who we are or who we should be, which is oft tainted and astray. It's not you, but perfect. It's not also who you wish you were. It's beyond any concept of you that your intellect could conjure up. So, lots of people say, "Oh yeah, I've discovered my truest self. Yes, this is everything that I've always wanted to be. Oh yes, my true self. It's somebody who's pursuing her dreams. Oh, my true self. Yes, yes, it's not my job at work." So even even with all of that, it's very hard for people to see that there's something beyond all of that. The whole purpose is that the true self is not some actualized version of you. It's not like, oh, Neil's true self is like this and this and this. It's beyond conception. Nothing that I could say right now could accurately describe the truth of who you really are. The more you
What did
seek to
that
the more you seek to define it, further away you get from it. The more you seek to improve yourself, the further away from it you get. Because what you're improving is not your true self, because your true self is immaculate. It's unimprovable. It's eternal. You can't improve upon eternity. It just doesn't make sense. It's meaningless. Go ahead, Joe.
what did that bit in the book say about finger pointing at the moon, not the moon itself? What did all that mean?
So it's I don't know what you would call it. I get maybe a phrase or parable or saying, um, anecdote, whatever. It's if if you point to the moon, um, when you see somebody point to the moon, if you look at their finger, you're going to miss the moon. So it's a sort of spiritual phrase of if you get caught up in the ideas and the concepts, you miss the actual experience. If you just listen to me talk about the moon, you're going to miss even the word moon is not it. I just said Luna herself as a poetic liberty. I later go on to make that very practical and talk about embodiment because so many people are just in their head thinking about this stuff. Oh yeah, yeah, I know about this. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. When they don't get the results. I mean, that was that was the first 8 years of doing personal development work, because I knew it all up here, but I didn't have it embodied. And so we confuse the image with the self. What tastes better, the menu or the actual food you eat? I mean, you can eat all the words you want. It's not going to taste like a hamburger.
Andrew, how do you, when you say the true self is not improvable, that's very clear. Yes, that resonates. But then when we're doing this work, one of the things is getting more in feeling. And there is, I felt, a progression and an improving in that regard. So I guess I get a little bit confused sometimes about how to approach the work.
Subtraction. How are you going into your nervous system and making your nerves and muscles move to feel? I don't have a fucking clue, do you?
Mm,
So there's an intelligence that runs the body. There's an intelligence of the body. There's an intelligence beyond our ego operating this whole thing. So the more you get out of the way, the more the nature of being is allowed to express itself. But that's also contradictory because the nature of consciousness expressing itself is also to do all of this crazy, wacky, traumatic shit too.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
then
get,
eventually, when you wake up and when you're illuminated, you say this, it matters, but it doesn't matter. None of this matters, but we're here, so it matters.
mhm,
There's nothing wrong with you. And, you could sit there and be a blob of nothingness. That's okay. Well, but if you want to play the game, it's going to create a lot of suffering because that's not the game that we're playing. You just didn't realize that we're playing this. It doesn't make things feel less real. It doesn't um,
mhm.
mean you don't learn and grow. So this is, I think, the distinction you're looking for is the difference between um, healing and growing. So as I say in this work, there's three main modus operandi. One being healing, two being functionality, and three being mystical path. And so in healing, it's about subtraction, right? But no one's going to sit here and say you don't learn anything. You're always learning. You're always growing. So if you are looking at it from the perspective of trying to make progress, you're already conning yourself. What are you trying to progress to? Now, if you are learning a specific skill as its own isolated thing, well, sure, there's a step one, two, step three, step four. It doesn't mean that when you're engineering something, you just pretend like there's no steps. But if this is your relationship with yourself, are you engineering yourself? How do you relate to yourself? Do you relate to yourself like a task that needs to be completed? You relate to yourself as a to-do list, checkbox you got to get through in order to finally feel lovable and enough to start living your life. That's why you never hear me talking about, oh, you're making great progress. It bothers a lot of people. I've worked with you for how many years and paid how much money and I'm not making any progress? Oh, what are you trying to progress to? Yeah, versus showing up, feeling, embodying, exploring, healing, playing, getting curious, allowing more beauty, increasing your range, which is growing, expanding. Even learning how to get smaller in a new way is expansion. It's even more energy, right? An increase of energy and or expansion of energy or a greater experience of energy. And you can turn that energy into yin and yang, light and dark, masculine and feminine, but it's still energy. Where are you trying to get to is the question.
Yeah, that helps. Thanks, Andrew. I think feeling the distinction between the three paths that helps me kind of uh, frame it a little better. Because all three are happening simultaneously. And from the perspective of becoming more functional, there feels like a definite progression there. But I get what you're saying with the
But
healing,
progressing towards what?
uh, progressing towards less dysfunction, stopping my dysfunction so that I can
Why can't you
channel what
just
I
stop?
want.
Why can't you just heal your dysfunction? Why
Uh,
does it have to be progress? Where do you have to measure it? What are you measuring it against?
I'm measuring it against um, well, right now it's just the inertia with where I'm at. But
Well, where are you? Yeah.
I'm right here.
Yeah. Well, then where are you trying to get? So you see it space and suffering.
Yeah.
So you can play the game, and that's fine until you're done with it. That's kind of what I mean by the chapter, the spiritual path is failing you, right? All the seeking. Oh yeah, that. Oh yeah, I forgot about that guy on Amazon who's like, I got to this part of the book. He said, spirituality is useless. Your life's better off without it. I threw the book in the trash. I'm like, oh, that's a great one-star review. That's all right. It's not at all what I said, but um, and I was like, well, I got to take responsibility because I did make it a very poignant chapter title. So I gotta own that reactivity to it. Um, yeah, spirituality, the seeking. You're seeking. Lots of people who are called seekers. Guess what happens to a seeker? that finds it. They stop being a seeker. So their identity is literally based on something that their goal invalidates their identity to. If you've identified as being a victim and helpless, and the world's out to get you, and all of a sudden everything in your life starts working, and you're empowered, and it's great. Well, guess what? Now you're the oppressor. Now you're the one who's better off. So then well, you have to deal with the guilt. Then you have to deal with the shame. Oh my God, I'm taking away from other people, right? If you have these stories about what the world's doing to you and you get out of them, well, in that paradigm, if you're not the victim, well, there's only one other option. Not in reality, not in my world, but in that paradigm. So these labels and these identities we give ourselves serve for moments, but if you're not able to give them up, they hold you back. So we get off the spiritual path. It got you here. People don't realize. Great, it got you here. Yeah, no, no, what's the next shiny thing? Yeah, they're always seeking. It's the people that come on, you see them for 2 calls and you never see them again, and they're off to the next thing that has sexier words and razzle dazzle bedazzles. They can levitate, whatever the fuck it is. Summon unicorns.
Yeah, I can relate to that, Andrew, because I was seeker. I was a seeker from like my whole life, and you're right. It's like you can't stop because there's just so much feeling when you stop. There's so much crap that you just don't want to feel, so you don't stop.
Neil, that's pretty much spot on. When Andrew said he kept on questioning you, what are you seeking, what are you doing, and you just stopped and you felt, and I just felt so much sadness, and that's what it feels like you need to progress, right? And I can relate. It's the same thing. And you just pointed it exactly out with your words. Just you can't. It feels like you can't stop because if you do, you have to feel, right? And we feel, and there's terror, and there's sadness, and pain, and you know,
Self-abandonment,
mm,
betrayal.
I loved what you said one time, Andrew, that you've got the steak and a lot of other people just have sizzle out there. It's just such a good analogy because I just really feel like this is the real deal here.
Yeah, it's just for most people, it just sounds boring. There's no quantum entanglement and um, energetic, coherent fields that we're all resonating to. And, it's like, well, stop, feel, tell the truth, take responsibility, make a new choice. Yeah, I know those things. Oh, wow, yeah, okay. Yeah, this person's got scientists and they've got electrodes on their head and they're monks. Oh, okay. It's like, yeah, cool. But really like the Zen. One of my favorite Zen phrases is um, first enlightenment, then the dishes. It's like, great. So what? You woke up. Get on with life. It's not it's not the exact same thing, but the idea that people are seeking that thing, and once they get there, it's going to be this magical place. And it is. And it's a magical experience. Then what? They don't know. So busy trying to get there. What was it? I think Ellen Watts. Oh, I think he quoted somebody else. What it was, I forget, but it was something like there's only like four questions. I'm gonna butcher this, but it's like there's only really four questions. Is like, where did we come from? Who put us here? What are we gonna do with it? And who's gonna clean up after we're done? Like about what life in this whole universe is about. And so it's kind of like it reminds me of that and a dog that chases a car. It has no idea what it's going to do with the tire once it catches it. It's just there for the chase. It's just seeking to make progress.
That is how it is, Andrew. Like, because you can seek on all three of those things. Like, you can seek with a healing path. There's so many different healing modalities. That's what I did. And then you can seek with the functionality path, like all the self-development stuff. And you can seek with the spiritual stuff. And then you become spiritually, you fall into the spiritual materialism traps and elitism and all that. And you can keep doing all of that without stopping and feeling.
Yeah.
Just basically,
Exactly.
yeah, what I did.
Don't spit too much truth here, all right, Neil. I'm happy. Don't spit too much truth here.
It's too the truth is hitting too hard at the room.
Just too hard on the call. Just
Yeah, dude, I feel you, man. It is, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the great questions. Any final thoughts? What are you guys hearing? Megan, Joe, Neva, Mauricio? Are we weirding you out?
I'm just thinking about, like, my head went off on a weird tangent a few minutes ago. And I don't know, it kind of got brought back a bit just those last few seconds. That, like, so I always think that if there's some, it goes back to this whole progress kind of route of knowing where I need to go, having like a view of it. But then I was like, but if we're going, not like kind of, we're going backwards in a way because of that subtracting, going back to how we were originally born, there isn't that foundation there because you were born and straight away you've got all these stuff coming in. So there isn't that foundation. But then, like what Neil was saying, it's just about feeling. Like when you're first born, the first reaction you have or you should have is the cry and the feeling behind that of, oh flip, I'm out in the big wide world now. That make any sense?
Yeah, but we're not subtracting back to babies. We're subtracting back to our true self.
But then isn't that the like the clean slate kind of thing of when you're born, you are a clean, yeah. Like you haven't
On a
got any of
very,
those
yeah,
like
I mean, on a
stories and
very,
stuff.
on a very basic level, yeah. But there's a lot more behind that too. I wish it was so easy as just reverting back to a baby. So it's not a
Hmm.
regression, it's a
Okay.
subtraction. It's a really good distinction. I don't know if I've said it quite this way before. We are not regressing, we are subtracting. The difference is when you regress, you lose the wisdom. You lose the experience, you lose the embodiment. So if you just go back to being a baby, well, then you're just starting over. You're just like being reincarnated. But when you subtract, you're subtracting what isn't you.
Joe, do you know a philosopher named Ken Wilber? Have you ever heard of Ken Wilber? He wrote this book. I see Mauricio nodding. He wrote this book called Spectrum of Consciousness, like in the 70s or 80s. And he had this, he talked about how uh, there's these splits that happen, right? So the first, like when you're a baby, first split that happens is self and environment. And then after that, mind and body. And then after that, within the mind, ego and shadow. And so it's like, and so you're trying to reclaim it and stop the split, right? And so it's like ego, shadow, mind, body, self, environment. And then the self and environment split, like the narcissism causes it. It's like a big factor.
That's interesting.
So I don't know if that helps, but yeah.
Yeah. I might go on Amazon and get the book
Yeah.
if it's still available.
Yes, it's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank
See
you
you
for
next
joining.
week.
See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Right. We have upcoming workshops next weekend. Cinematic Relation in person. Cinematic Exploration in May. Slackline in June. Life Map in August. Mysteries in October. Be sure to sign up at andrewdaniel.org.